Over the past few weeks, two of hip-hop's titans have been embroiled in a beef. Drake, the most successful rapper of all time, specializing in making records for the ladies and having his finger on the pulse of what's poppin'. Some have felt that over the years he's become more and more corporate and has lost his edge. That he's actually damaging the culture by stealing new creative sounds from up-and-coming artists, giving them little in the long run. Even though Drake is at the top by most metrics, he still feels like he has something to prove, that his blade is still sharp, that he's still that clever wordsmith everyone fell in love with in 2010, and not a hollow radio edit of what he once was that is for some reason speaking in a Toronto West Indies accent.
And more tune for your head top, so watch how you speak on my name, you know?
Kendrick Lamar, who's number-wise a step under Drake, is still considered an A-tier artist. He's almost the antithesis of Drake, a true auteur who's obsessed with creating something beautiful, dense, and meaningful, to the point where he almost forgot to make it digestible. Unlike Drake, nobody doubts his pen game or the possibility that he's past his prime. And as the exchange between the two becomes more and more heated, Kendrick's motivations for slaying the dragon are revealed. The beef started out as two ego-driven rappers trying to prove that they are the guy, but quickly snowballed into hitmen trying to assassinate each other's characters and careers. But let's rewind for a second and find out how this thing even happened. On August the 12th, 2013, Big Sean released a song called Control, featuring Kendrick Lamar and Jay Electronica, originally slated to be part of his album Hall of Fame, which was released 2 weeks later. Due to a sample clearance issue, Big Sean was forced to remove it from the album and ended up releasing it for free on his SoundCloud. Initially, this song made waves simply for Sean scoring a Jay Electronica feature, a rapper who up until this point had only released one mixtape 6 years earlier and then disappeared from the limelight. Many critics praise this mixtape for being this genius masterpiece. Honestly, it's kind of overrated though. The mere connection of JLX's name to this record had seized the internet's attention, but ironically, most people would cut the song off before they even got to his verse. Kendrick Lamar, who had went second on the song, instantly stole the show. In a time where hip-hop seemed to move away from the competitive nature it was bred from into a more cooperative genre, Kendrick Lamar decided to harken back to the old and go at the throats of his peers in the industry. Most of the song, though aggressive, were generic nondescript bars that could apply to anyone, but towards the end of the verse is where he directly calls people out, saying, "I heard the barbershops be in the great debates all the time, but who's the best MC? Kendrick, Jigga, and Nas? Eminem, Andre 3000, the rest of y'all? New niggers! Just new niggers! Don't get involved." He continued on by stating, "I'm usually homeboys with the same niggers I'm rhyming with, but this is hip hop, and them niggers should know what time it is." And that goes for Jermaine Cole, Big Crit, Wale, Pusha T, Meek Mills, A$AP Rocky, Drake, Big Sean, Jay Electron, Tyler, Mac Miller. I got love for you all, but I'm trying to murder you. The fact that Kendrick called out both Jay Electronica and Big Sean signaled it was more of a light, playful jab than personal attacks. With Kendrick lighting up the internet with debates over who's the GOAT, this led to many rappers making responses, including Mac Miller, Big Crit, Lupe Fiasco, Meek Mill, Joey Badass, A$AP Ferg, Fabulous, and even J. Cole. No one really took them seriously though, and Kendrick's Control verse would go down in hip-hop history, and time would move on. Now it's 10 years later. Drake is inarguably the most successful rapper of all time, becoming an S-tier pop star, which doesn't necessarily equate to being the GOAT of rap status, but is definitely a factor. Kendrick Lamar, on the other hand, released a bunch of Grammy bait albums that don't even talk about sipping lean, getting money, or killing. And J. Cole got dreads. On October the 31st, 2023, Drake released First Person Shooter, featuring J. Cole as the 8th single and one of the bonus tracks of the Scary Hours edition of his For All the Dogs album. Early on this record, Drake would allude to him being the undisputed GOAT, while later on the record mentioning he believes this to be a sore spot for some. But J. Cole is where the important part comes in. He would say this during his verse: "Love when they argue the hardest MC. Is it K-Dot, is it Aubrey, or me? We the big three, we started a league." The three of them were absolutely a part of the conversation online over who is the current GOAT, so I'm not sure if J. Cole coined the term the big three, but at the very least, Cole brought it into the public lexicon. Ironically, Cole would immediately remove himself from the conversation only seconds later. But right now, I feel like Muhammad Ali. Yeah. Yeah, Muhammad Ali. The one they call when their ain't connecting no more. Feel like I got a job in IT. Rhyming with me is the biggest mistake. Spider-Man meme is me looking at Drake. The Spider-Man meme should be you looking down the barrel of a shotgun. You silly goose. Fast forwarding 6 months, Future and Metro Boomin would drop their joint album, We Don't Trust You, on March 22nd, 2024. One of the songs off that album was Like That, featuring Kendrick Lamar. Outside of the song being fire, Kendrick would use his verse to speak on the conversation surrounding the big three. Most of the bars are posturing and indirect, so the targets are only speculation at best. But there is a section in the middle where Kendrick is speaking on Drake and Cole. Sneak dissin' first-person shooter, I hope they came with 3 switches. Later saying, the big three, it's just me. Bomb. What, really like that? And your best work is a light pack. Prince outlive Mike Jack. This is a reference to Drake calling himself Michael Jackson on first-person shooter. At the time, though, Kendrick is clearly the aggressor in this situation. I think, on the whole, these are pretty light shots. A couple weeks later, on April the 5th, J. Cole released a response to Kendrick's Like That verse. This took place on the song 7 Minute Drill off his mixtape, Might Delete Later. The disses were pretty weak, though I do feel like he spoke some truth about Kendrick's career by saying, your first shit was classic, your last shit was tragic. The second shit put to sleep, but they gassed it. The third shit was massive, and that was your prime. I completely agree with Cole's analysis of the Kendrick Lamar albums, though he did actually mess up the numbering system, forgetting that Section 80 is actually his first album. His first album, according to Cole, Good Kid, Mad City, was a classic. His last album, Mr. Morale and the Big Stepper, was technically very good. The songs are like pieces of art, but it's Grammy bait backpacker music. It oftentimes feels too preachy and doesn't strike a good balance of what Kendrick finds creatively fulfilling and what's sonically digestible. His second album, according to Cole, To Pimp a Butterfly, suffers from the same pitfalls as Mr. Morale, but a lot worse. And his third album, Damn, struck that perfect balance. Ultimately, the issue with 7 Minute Drill is that it feels like a half step, not really fully committing to the diss. It's also called 7 Minute Drill with a runtime of only 3 minutes and 32 seconds, which is such a pet peeve of mine that it doesn't mix well with my autism. The numbers don't match up. Ironically, just like the album it was featured on, 7 Minute Drill would be removed from the mixtape after Cole made a public apology for its release at a concert on April the 7th. He said that he felt conflicted about releasing the diss, it becoming his biggest regret, and wanting to prioritize mental health over competitively saying mean words to a colleague. The song would be pulled from all streaming platforms on April the 12th. And if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to drop a comment or a like and a subscribe. Would be appreciated. Drake's response to Like That, called Push-Ups, would mysteriously be leaked to the internet on April the 13th. Given how calculated and protective Drake is over his music, to me it seems like more of a half measure than a real leak, a way of testing the waters with fans after J. Cole's less than stellar 7 Minute Drill. Push-Ups would be a mixed bag of a diss track. The first half sees Drake going in on Kendrick, and this is where the song shines in my opinion. It's on the back half where it starts to lose focus, going in on anyone who's ever had a slight disagreement with the Canadian rapper. This also marks the first dedicated diss track in this beef. J. Cole's doesn't count, come on. Drake, who is inarguably the biggest rapper of all time, little bros Kendrick on this track, telling him he handed him his first #1, calling him a tiny little dwarf man on account of him being 5'6" and wearing size 7 men's shoes, allegedly. This is also made reference to with the artwork showing his alleged shoe size. While funny, those are just surface level disses. Where things start to become more poignant is where Drake says, extortion baby, whole career you've been shook up. Cause Top told you drop and give him 50, like some push-ups. This is not only the bar this diss gets its namesake from, but also a double entendre. The first reference is to a 2023 video featuring Kendrick doing prison-style push-ups, which Drake alludes that these push-ups were at the behest of his then record label boss, Top Dog, but also a reference to Kendrick allegedly signing a bad deal and giving 50% of his revenue to Top Dog and his label. Oddly, Drake follows this up by making fun of him for working with pop acts like Taylor Swift and Maroon 5. I think this is supposed to be a racial thing because like Kendrick is very black power. Drake would later say, what the f is this, a 20v1? Which sounds more like a complaint than a diss, but it gets referenced in the Future by Kendrick. Speaking of Future, this bar about a 20v1 is all about all of the artists that took shots at Drake on the Future Metro Boomin album. It seems like Drake has burned a lot of bridges amongst his peers, who have all been keeping quiet about it until the release of We Don't Trust You, which in hindsight could be considered a Drake diss album. Metro Boomin isn't off the hook either with this bar. The Weeknd, who's had a long-standing beef with Drake, also catches a few bullets. Y'all Manager was Chubb, Lil Blunt Runner, claimed the 6 and you boys ain't even from it. And when you boys got rich, you had to run from it. Cash blowing Abel's bread, out here tricking. These are all a little inside baseball here, but Chubbs and Cash, or Cash XO, are both work on the Weeknd's management team. Sorry, a little mistake here. What I meant to say is that Chubb is on Drake's management team, and he's alluding to Cash XO just running blunts for Chubbs, kind of like behind the scenes. And Abel, of course, is the Weeknd. It's his government name. And there's also an allegation here that Cash XO has been blowing Abel's money on male prostitutes. He goes after Rick Ross here as well, who apparently unfollowed him after Like That was released. Though this song leaked, it would be officially released on April the 19th. There would be a couple bars that got changed around a little bit, as well as a brand new beat, setting the stage for Kendrick to respond. 2 days after the leak of Push-Ups, Ross would take a jab at Drake on April the 15th with Champagne Moments. The artwork shows an extra white version of Drake's visage. This would be a theme throughout Ross's diss. The track itself actually goes pretty hard. Ross's flow and delivery are quite piercing. The content of his bars do seem a little passé. Most of his points of contention with Drake were already brought to light by Pusha T, who did it more impactfully. Drake's use of ghostwriters, stealing his flows from other rappers, and not being at all creative, trying too hard to be black, etc. Along with the official release of Push-Ups, Drake would also drop another diss track entitled Tailor-Made Freestyle, a play on words poking fun at Kendrick for recording a song with Taylor Swift. It features 2 AI verses from Tupac and Snoop Dogg lightly going at Kendrick, which is gay. The novelty of AI has completely worn off at this point. Like, why are we even listening to this? All it really signifies is Drake learned how to sign up to an AI, recurring monthly service for like $20 a month. It's like, okay, cool. And literally anyone can do this. It's not that crazy. Getting a fake Snoop Dogg and a fake Tupac, the whole thing was just super lame to me. Both AI rappers didn't really say anything substantive. Drake also had his own verse on the record, essentially calling Kendrick a slave to the white man for doing songs with Taylor Swift. And he also mentions that Kendrick is taking too long to respond. Ye would release a Like That remix on April 21st, where he makes the beat worse.
Can't stop, won't stop. I just fucked your bitch in the Sean John tank.
Ye really isn't involved in this beef, but he and Drake have had a long-running feud dating back to the Life of Pablo days. On the remix to the track that kicked this whole thing off, Ye goes in on Drake himself saying, "Where's Lucien? Serve your master. You caught a little bag for your masters, didn't you? Lifetime deal. I feel bad for it. Y'all out of sight, out of mind. I can't even think of a Drake line. Play J. Cole, get that pussy dry." Lucien is in reference to Lucien Grange, the CEO of Universal and the parent company to OVO. Ye is also saying that Drake is signed to a lifetime deal and isn't making the money he should be, while also stating that J. Cole is boring. I think we all agree with that one. On April 30th, Kendrick would finally make his reply to Drake's Push-Ups and Tailor-Made Freestyle with Euphoria. To date, this would mark the pinnacle of the beef, with Kendrick taking a measured and personal approach, not too dissimilar to Pusha T. The title to this track is a reference to the HBO show of the same name, which not only has Drake as an executive producer, but also features simulated underage sex, which is a main plotline in this diss. Broken up into 3 parts with 3 different beats, the first part is introductory, a thesis statement for Kendrick's talking points. Kendrick replies to a line from Push-Up saying, "Fabricating stories on the family front, cause you heard Mr. Morale, a pathetic master manipulator. I can smell the tails on you now. You're not a rap artist, you're a scam artist with the hopes of being accepted." Drake alluded to Kendrick's long-term relationship with Whitney Alford being on the rocks because she was unfaithful when Drake said, "I be with some bodyguards like Whitney." Kendrick goes on to detail Drake being generally not a good person, saying he's a manipulator, a liar, and embarrassed by his mixed race heritage. An interesting bit from part 2 of the track is where the song goes into full diss mode with these bars.
"I hate when a rapper talk about guns, then somebody die, they turn into nuns, then hop online like pray for my city, he faking for likes and digital hugs."
Taking shots at Drake for, on one hand, glorifying, profiting, pretending to be part of gang culture and gun violence, but on the other hand, being part of things like an anti-gun campaign.
People don't even know the logistics of the beef or why or what really happened. It's just, I'm conditioned to hate this area.
Drake has been criticized for years for talking tough on records as a form of marketing to women, pretty much. He's just clearly not cut from that cloth. He goes on to say that he's inheriting this beef from Pusha T / Pharrell, making a reference to DMX dissing Drake on The Breakfast Club.
Now, why don't you like Drake?
I don't like anything about Drake.
Mom,
I don't like his voice. I don't like what he talks about. I don't.
Jeez, I be trying to
I don't
tell
like
these
his
people.
I don't like the way he walks. Like nothing. I don't like his haircut. I might just let me shut up.
I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk. I hate the way that you dress. I hate the way that you sneak this. If I catch flight, it's gonna be direct. We hate the bitches you fuck, cause they confuse themselves with real women. Then notice I said we, it's not just me, I'm what the culture feeling.
Saying that the culture notices Drake's taste in women, which is young, calling out his racial insecurities and the rumors started by Joe Budden that he got ab implant and other plastic surgeries. The final and third part of this record is the most personal, involving his kids and taking the beef to the next level. He starts by continuing with the DMX reference and rebutting the claim that Drake made on push-ups that Kendrick signed away 50% of his rights, bringing up the long-standing rumors that Drake himself signed away a ton of his rights. He then goes to attack Drake as a father.
That's whole shit, I got a son to raise, but I can see you don't know nothing about that. Waking them up, know nothing about that. Then tell them to pray, know nothing about that. Then giving them tools to walk through life like day by day, know nothing about that. Teaching them morals, integrity, discipline, listen man, you don't know nothing about that. Speaking the truth and consider what God's considering, you don't know nothing about that.
This is a logical conclusion for Kendrick, laying out the case that at his core, Drake is a fame-obsessed narcissist who hired a marketing team to make sure he looks like a good person and black. So going with that premise, how could Drake be a good father? This is an attempt to cut deep inside who Drake is as a person and inadvertently involves his son, which significantly intensifies the beef. There's a ton of other references and rebuttals, such as making fun of Toronto's accent and playing on the 20v1 line, but let's move on. 3 days later, on May 3rd, after taking weeks to respond, Kendrick dropped a follow-up to Euphoria without giving Drake a chance to reply. In retrospect, this song almost seemed like bait as a way to make Drake feel like he's running out of steam. It's much lower energy and the disses are less scathing. Most of the song consists of Kendrick saying that he has moles inside of OVO who are leaking him information, and that Drake has been trying to do the same to him but was unsuccessful because his circle is much tighter. The same day, Drake would strike back with a song and video called Family Matters. This beat and chorus were teased at the end of Push-Ups at a slower BPM back on April 19th. That, in combination with the fact that he had a music video already shot and edited, means that even though there were some up-to-date references, this likely wasn't a one-day turnaround. The video features the same minivan that was used on the cover for Good Kid, Mad City being destroyed at a garbage dump. Drake refutes the allegations that his camp is leaking things by saying, "Can't be rapping about no rattin' that we can't read." Also calling into question Kendrick using black empowerment to make music without actually doing anything to enact any real change by saying, "Always rapping like you about to get the slaves freed. You just acting like an activist. It's make-believe." He tries to go after Kendrick for saying he doesn't approve of his choice in women. Drake responds by saying that Kendrick is dating a mixed girl, which I think completely misses the point. Drake, he's telling you that you sleep around with hookers that are often underage. That doesn't really stack up, but let's continue. He continues on with that train of thought saying, "All that puppy love was over in y'all late teens. Why you never hold your son and tell him say cheese? We could have left the kids out of this. Don't blame me. You a dog and you know it. You just play sweet. Your baby mama's captions always screaming save me. You did her dirty all your life. You trying to make peace. I heard one of them little kids might be Dave Free. Don't make it Dave Freeze. Cause if your GM is your BM secret BD, then this is all making plenty fucking sense to me." He claims that Kendrick and his fiance have had some spousal issues from over the years stemming from her infidelity, her sleeping around, that possibly one of Kendrick's kids does belong to Dave Free. Dave Free is Kendrick's lifelong friend, business partner. They co-own the label PG Lang together. The second part of this song uses a UK drill beat, which I thought was a trend that died with Pop Smoke. It was an odd choice. He once again steers away from Kendrick and throws bars at Ross, A$AP Rocky, Future, Metro Boomin, and The Weeknd. This bar calling Weeknd gay is pretty funny. Weeknd music getting played in all the spots where boys got a little more pride. That's why all your friends dip into Atlanta, paying just to find a tour guide. We then move into part 3, which I feel like by this point, the song has completely lost any momentum it had. It was an odd choice, including the second part going after everyone who isn't Kendrick. It's just not sticking to the point, and in part 3, he returns to Kendrick. Most of them are just retreading the same topics we heard in part 1. And with part 2 breaking parts 1 and 3 up, it feels a bit disconnected. The only new information we get are these bars. We get that you like to put gin in your juice. We get that you think you're Bishop and Juice. When you put your hands on your girl, is it self-defense because she's bigger than you? Drake makes the claim that Kendrick domestically abused his fiance because of her infidelity. He also suggests, despite proposing to her in 2015, that is also the reason why they have yet to get married. I don't want my tone of voice to underplay this. This actually was a very good angle of attack for Drake. Drake clearly dropped a bomb on Kendrick when he released Push-Ups, but Kendrick rebutting with 2 songs back to back, which is obviously done on purpose. It's an ode to Back to Back, which was a Drake diss song he made to Meek Mill back in the day. With all that being said, Kendrick managed to completely shift the momentum back in his favor. But when Drake dropped Family Matters, like, I felt like general temperature on the internet was like, oh man, Drake is up one now. But Kendrick is clearly playing chess here and not checkers, and had another 2 diss records in the tuck ready to go. So when Drake drops Family Matters, Kendrick, minutes later, I think less than an hour later, drops his next diss record, and completely, with the help of the one that comes after, steps over Family Matters. Like, I don't think anyone's even talking about it anymore. Less than a day later, on May 4th, Kendrick would reply to Family Matters with Meet the Grams, an ode to Drake's family name. This song is broken up into 4 different letters, one to Drake's son, one to his parents, one to a mysterious daughter who Kendrick claims that he's been hiding from the world, and one to Drake himself. The artwork here is very significant as well. His previous diss used a photo of a glove. Remember when I told you 616 in LA may have been bait to draw Drake out for his next move? Well, here it is. Well, it turns out that the art was actually part of a larger photo. This photo was the cover for Meet the Grams. I'm blurring this out for legal reasons, but the content of the photo featured a glove, a shirt, receipts for jewelry purchased by Drake, and 2 pill bottles. One which allegedly had a prescription for Ambien printed on it, and the other bottle allegedly had a prescription for Ozempic. Both prescriptions were also allegedly in Drake's legal name. This artwork would later be removed from streaming platforms as it violates HIPAA's privacy rules, which protects from the public disclosure of private medical records. The first letter to Adonis was so disrespectful, not to his son directly, but to Drake as a father. Everything is pretty straightforward and doesn't really need any additional context, but these bars stand out for me.
Never fall in the escort business, that's bad religion. Please remember, you could be a bitch even if you got bitches. Never code switch, whether right or wrong. You're a black man, even if it don't benefit your goals. Do some push-ups, get some discipline. Don't cut them corners like your daddy did. Fuck what Ozempic did. Don't pay to play with them Brazilians.
Essentially saying that his daddy lives a life of sin, adopts a fake Toronto accent, which is the worst accent in the world, takes Ozempic and got plastic surgery. The letter to his parents was, I'd say, even more disrespectful. A character assassination. This segment stands out for me. For reference, he's speaking to his father.
He got sex offenders on Hovio that he keep on a monthly allowance. A child should never be compromised, and he keeping his child around him. And we gotta raise our daughters knowing there's predators like him lurking. Fuck a rap battle, he should die so all of these women can live with a purpose.
He continues on with more details, but the crux of what he's saying here is that Drake is a very much an Epstein-like figure, a Diddy-like figure, let's say, a sex fiend who's running some kind of quasi-trafficking ring, and has young women coming in and out on a conveyor belt. The third letter claims that Drake has been hiding a daughter for the last 11 years. At this point, there's zero proof of this. Drake would post the same day denying the claims. He would also privately tell DJ Academics that if he could find his daughter, he would quit rapping and go work for him. Fans did dig up a 12-year-old tweet which simply reads, "Baby girl." The dates would coincide with the birth of this mysterious daughter, or it also could be completely unrelated. The internet may have actually found the girl. Pictures of her have been circulating, and she also seems to have appeared in the All My Life music video by J. Cole and Durk. And to be clear, I'm blurring these pictures out because she is still a kid and it's just weird. Also, it's the internet, so there's like a 78% chance she's like a completely innocent person that has nothing to do with the situation. The final letter is addressed to Drake himself, pleads with Drake to get some serious help for his lifestyle, detailing on how he's living impulsive and filled with instant gratification. The arrested development of a child star, if you will.
37, but you showing up as a 7-year-old. You got gambling problems, drinking problems, pill popping and spending problems, bad with money, whorehouse, soliciting women problems. Therapy's a lovely start, but I suggest some ayahuasca, strip the ego from the bottom.
The way Kendrick breaks down Drake's character at the end it's incredible. Putting him naked out in the open for the world to see Aubrey instead of Drake, the mask he's been hiding behind. While Meet the Grams on some level seemed like Kendrick trying to level with Drake man to man, telling him to get help, Not Like Us completely flips the mood and was released only hours after on May 4th. This record really builds on the allegation of Drake liking young girls. The artwork to this single is Drake's mega mansion in Toronto with a bunch of pins dropped on it. Those pins are in specific reference to the US National Sex Offender Registry. If you don't know what that is, you automatically get added to a sex offender registry with your address being publicly displayed. The red pins specifically refer to a sex offender whose victims is underage. The song kicks off with DJ Mustard's tag and entering him onto Team Kendrick. The whole diss is Kendrick calling Drake a PDF file.
Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any bitch that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him.
He makes the same accusations about his crew members with,
they tell me Chubb's the only one that get your hand-me-downs.
Again, Chubbs is part of the management team.
And Party at the party playing with his nose now.
This is directed at Party Next Door, saying that he's a cocaine addict.
And Baca got a weird case, why is he around?
Baca Not Nice is signed to OVO. He pleaded guilty to human trafficking in 2014, which of course would make him a sex offender, except the victim refused to testify, and he ended up getting off in 2015 when the case was dropped.
Certified lover boy, certified pedophile.
This album cover is somehow even worse in hindsight.
Why you trolling like a bitch, ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor.
Kendrick is relentless with the minor accusations. He continues to dunk on him repeatedly, even mentioning that Drake had sex with mentor Lil Wayne's girlfriend when Wayne went to prison in 2010, which I didn't know was a publicly known thing until this diss, but it does go to show you what Drake's character is. He also claims to have another 5 disses in the chamber. In the final verse, Kendrick makes an analogy of Drake's career and how he's used Atlanta rappers over the years to co-sign his public appearance, with slaves in Atlanta building all the transportation infrastructure.
You caught Future when you didn't see the club. Hey, what? Little baby help you get your lingo up. What? 21 get your first street cred. Thug make you feel like you a slime in your head. Hey, what? Quavo said you can be from Northside. What? 2 Chainz say you good but he lied. You run to Atlanta when you need a few dollars. No, you not a colleague, you a fucking colony.
After a weekend of being outplayed by Kendrick, Drake dropped his response, The Heart Part 6, an obvious ode to a series of songs released by Kendrick. I think most of the internet was completely exhausted by this point, so this whole song just really didn't feel impactful whatsoever. Too much happened in too little of a time. This felt like season 7 of Game of Thrones. The whole thing just felt like it overstayed its welcome by this point. Perhaps if Drake waited to give the audience a chance to breathe, this would have been perceived a little differently, but even so, I still feel like Drake was spinning his tires. There isn't any new information being disseminated here, only him reiterating his talking points. Also, a large portion of this track is him playing defense, which doesn't really work in a rap beef. The only option I've ever seen for defense is to say something that's so offensive about your opponent that everyone completely forgot what he said about you. Like you just have to keep pushing the bar, and when you get hit with the PDF file allegations, it's like, well, where do we go from here? I mean, that's like the nuclear option. He claims the secret daughter angle was actually orchestrated by his own camp, feeding Kendrick false information. When it comes to the PDF file allegations, his response is that if it was true, he would have already been arrested because he's famous. Which seems so detached with the thinking patterns of a regular human. The idea that Drake legitimately thinks that he would never be able to get away with it because he's rich and famous is insane. It just shows you that he's had money for too long. He has no idea how regular people live at this point. He also tries to flip it on Kendrick, saying that he only cares because he was himself molested by his dad, which is funny on paper, but the whole beat, the delivery, the way he wrote the bar, this whole thing was going for more of like a sad tone. Honestly, I think Drake's beat selection throughout the entire beef hasn't been helping at all, this one especially. Throughout the track, he also retreads on the whole Dave Free as your child's father angle, which doesn't really hit as hard when the entirety of the internet has confirmed that you're a minor attracted person. I think the entire roster of artists that were featured on We Don't Trust You should go on Vitaly's stream and just pull up to Drake's house and beat up on him.
I'm a sick fuck.
Ironically, after I recorded this, someone actually did pull up to his house and there was a shooting. At the time of me recording this, information is sparse. And since me recording the insert about Drake's house getting shot up, his house was targeted for attack a second time. Outside of the subject matter and the beats not really being that adequate, I think his bars are generally pretty solid on this one, but there's 2 that stand out immediately as possibly the 2 worst diss bars in a rap song of all time. You mentioned A minor, but gotta be sharp and tell the fans, who was it? You thought you left D flat. D major. Who wrote that for you? Mark Norman, you word associating dolt?
Someone in my ancestor f***ed a monkey.
You're a silver hack.
Drake essentially did the old orange, door hinge, foreskin, floor jizz routine. Good one. Yes, you know how to rhyme words. He also has a one-sided and clearly scripted conversation with Kendrick Lamar during the outro. He goes on and on, like, what are you even talking about? Stop blathering. Just end the song. We get it. Stop trying to be relatable. I think it's pretty unanimous that Kendrick took the W on this one. It's nearly impossible to bounce back from a PDF file allegation, even if it's untrue. I do think Drake's fan base is probably big enough to carry him through this one, so I think he'll be fine. And I know that Kendrick is going into album mode now, hopping in the studio, so I don't think we're going to hear any more new diss tracks from him. And Drake is, by all accounts, going on vacation soon too, so I think this beef is effectively over at this point. What I did glean from this beef, though, is that most of the rap industry seems to dislike Drake, something I didn't really know. I think most of that was kept behind the scenes just because he's so popular. And I think it says a lot about a person's character as an individual if they're part of, you know, this friend group, let's call it, and something happens, there's a split in this friend group, and all of the friends in that group no longer like one person, and everybody else is still friends. Like, you know, it'd be one thing if this was Civil War and people were picking sides, but it seems like everyone hates Drake, so I think, like I said, that just, it says a lot about him as a person. Thank you for watching. If you want to support me, you can become a member to my channel. It's only as low as 99 cents a month, and you get nothing in return for it, but I get money. Okay, bye-bye now.